What's up, guys? It's Dwayne back again for another video, back in for the reaction. And today's a great, wonderful, amazing day because it's a Sweden day. I still don't understand why Swedes do this. Without further ado, let's get into this reaction. Let's go.
I still don't understand why Swedish people do this. Now, before I explain what this is, I want to lay the groundwork and explain some things that are very, very unique about Swedish culture to try to understand this phenomenon a little bit better. The first thing is that Sweden is the least religious country in the entire world, depending on how you look at the data. But out of respondents that responded to the survey, 82% of people in Sweden say that religion is not important to them and that it doesn't play a large
82%. That is a large amount. I wonder why you guys are not religious anymore. Like, I understand. Yeah, I just don't know. Let me know in the comment section, like, why that's the case. Because it's different from country to country in the West. And obviously America's the most religious. I think Britain's somewhere in between. Germany is also very religious. But why in like Scandinavia are your countries less religious? Let me know in the comment section. Yes, let me know. I think I watched a video and I think it was something to do with the fact that in Sweden you had a lot of oppression when it came to religion. Like, there was a lot of control going on, and basically rebellion started and you guys just said no to religion because life is better without religion being oppressive and being part of your laws and your rules. I don't know if that's true, but let me know in the comment section. That's what I heard. That's what I heard. Let me know.
a large role in their life, which is the highest out of any country reporting. Another way that Sweden is extremely unique is that of all of the countries in Europe, people move out of their parents' household at the earliest age out of any country here in Europe, at the age of 8.
That I have heard, because you guys are like seriously independent, and that's just in Swedish culture to be very individualistic, but not in a bad way. Individualistic as in like just independent, self-reliant, self-sufficient. And I respect that. That's why I love the Swedes. I do.
18 and a half years old. And that's the average. So that means that there's a ton of people under the age of 18 that are moving out of their parents' house that are from Sweden. Now, this is completely the case. I've met people that have gone to high schools in different cities or towns than where they're from. So in those cases, these are people that were like 15 or 16 years old moving out of their parents' house into student accommodations or any of those types of things. So that's very unique. You think about like countries in Southern Europe, like Italy, Croatia, for example, the average age was over 30, and that's the average. There's a lot of people still living with their parents over the age of 30 in a lot of different countries in Europe. So
I think in Southern Europe, they have more emphasis on family. Do you know what I mean? Like family and being together as a family, and you know, communing as a family, and still living at home with parents. Is very, 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 very ingrained in places like Spain and Italy and those kind of family orientated. I feel like in Sweden, in Northern Europe, and like Northern and maybe a little bit Eastern Europe, are just a bit more independent. What I was gonna say, in Sweden, when you go to a restaurant or cafe, do you see a lot of people sat on their own? And I just say this because that would show whether, you know, people are very self-reliant and don't mind doing things on their own. Do you get a lot of Swedish people going on backpacking adventures on their own? Do you know what I mean? Like going on like backpacker trips just like individually. Let me know in the comment section. I'm really interested to know. I want to know how individualistic Swedes are, how courageous they are, how confident they are being self-reliant. Let me know in the comment section.
So Sweden is extremely unique in that way. Also in Sweden, almost half of all of the households in Sweden are childless, partnerless adults. So I actually fall into this category as well, being a 26-year-old single guy living alone in my apartment in Stockholm. And all of these statistics really go to show that Swedes are extremely independent. Now, the
childless and partnerless. Let me know in the comment section if you are childless or you're partnerless. Yeah, you don't have a significant other. I do now, but for a very long time I didn't. I have no children. That's something I don't have. But I have a partner. But for the longest time, I've been very, very independent as a person and on my own. And I've never felt bad about being on my own. I've always been able to entertain myself. That sounds weird. I've always been able to just be independent and happy being alone. Obviously wanting to be in a relationship, but you know, I never felt like I was weird not being in a relationship. And the child situation, I mean, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Like I'm not really, you know, I'm actually happy not having any children. It means that me and my partner can go off and do things together, and we have more money. So to do things, is that selfish? No. That's just being independent, like the Swedes. But let me know in the comment section if you have a partner, or if you have a child, or if you have a family. Let me know. Or maybe you live on your own. Let me know in the comment section.
Now, the thing that is super surprising, the thing that I still don't really get, is that a lot of times people in Sweden will have kids before they get married. This is a very, very foreign concept to me. As an American and as somebody that grew up in a Catholic family, I'm not religious anymore, but I still grew up with a lot of these values of getting married before having kids. And there's definitely a stigma around this in the US. If you have kids before being married, it has this like negative connotation to it a little bit, which is completely not the case at all in Sweden. I have friends.
That's interesting. Yeah, single mothers. Yes, it's still, or single fathers, single anyone. It still has a kind of negative connotation in Britain in the sense of, oh, where's the partner? Did she get knocked up before she was in a relationship? Was it a one night stand? Was it this or that? Or why is he alone? Why has he got a kid on his own? Where's his wife? Like, what happened there? Like, it's always seen as a negative thing. So I completely understand that. But it sounds like what he's going to say is in Sweden, it's quite normal to see a single mother or single father, a single individual who has a child. It's not really seen as a shocking thing or a thing that should make anyone, you know, less of a parent because they're on their own.
Friends that are having kids that are not married, and nobody frowns upon it here. It's just completely culturally acceptable in Sweden, which is a major difference. And actually, from dating girls here in Sweden, I made a comment one time like, how come your parents, they live together but they have a different last name? They had been together for 20 years. And she's like, well, they're not married. I was like, huh, that's crazy that, you know, people are together for 20 years and not married. But if you...
Is that a thing in Sweden? Is that normal in Sweden? Now, that is something we do not have that phenomena in the UK. So people will be together long term, have a child long term, be basically probably in law because you've been living together and been in a relationship for so long. We have a thing called common law. Is it common law spouse? Where basically common law marriage or whatever, when you haven't officially legally married, but because you've been together for so long, probably shared finances for so long, in the eyes of the law, you're basically married. I wonder if you have a similar thing in Sweden. Let me know in the comment section. But I find that really interesting that you have relationships and family dynamics like that, where the parents are not married, but they've been together for such a long time, and you're a family, and you have different last names. That's very fascinating. Me and my partner have different last names, so I guess we're kind of like Swedes in that situation.
If you look at like the legal ramifications of marriage here in Sweden, there's not a whole lot of advantages of getting married versus just being in a registered partnership. At least for me, from like an immigrant standpoint, being a sambo or cohabitating partner with a Swede is pretty much the same in the eyes of the Swedish government as being married to somebody. In the US, that's not the case. You can marry an American and get a green card, which you couldn't do if you weren't married. So there are some slight differences between a registered partnership and marriage, but to sum it all up and not bore you guys with the details, there's a bigger difference in that in the US, and you can actually have more advantages, such as advantages with taxes and all those types of things, in the US and in Sweden, the differences are much, much more minimal. Because of that.
Yeah, that's another thing in the UK. We do have the tax incentive to be married. If you're married, there are certain taxes that work out better if you're in a marriage, if you're with somebody. So, yeah.
People just don't really care to get married as much here. Now, while we're on the topic of relationships, dating, and marriage, I was reading this BBC article and it had some very, very interesting statistics because Sweden's a country with a ton of single people. As I was saying, you have the most adults living alone, you know, highest percentage of households, all of that kind of stuff. And they did a study, and only 1 out of 4 single people that relocated to Sweden from another country, only 1 out of 4 of them was in a relationship, in a partnership, after being in Sweden for 5 years, which is very, very crazy. There could be a lot of cultural different factors that go into this, but I think the thing is that Swedish people, they're not quick to jump into relationships. They're not quick to jump into marriages and bigger commitments like that. I remember when I was dating a Swedish girl in America and I asked her to be my girlfriend. After a few months, she was like, "Whoa, already?" I was like, "What?" I mean, we've been hanging out like quite frequently for a couple months, but that was surprising for her that I wanted to take it to that next level.
So you guys are just a lot more casual with things. You kind of go with the flow and then see. That's how that's how I would like it. Like I don't want things to be intense and locked down. I think things should happen organically, and I think a lot of the time there's that kind of pressure to be in a relationship. It's like, what are we? What's our status? Are we together? Are we boyfriend and girlfriend? Is it official? But sometimes, you know, that can be stifling. You know, like it can be too much in a relationship, and you don't want that. You want it to be quite relaxed, and I completely understand that. I like the Swedish way of doing things. You know, there's no pressure to get married. There's no pressure to be seen by other people as being this stable couple in a relationship. You know, it's totally fine. I'm a bit of a loner. I like being on my own a lot of the time. So I probably fit in Sweden. I love people, clearly, because I'm on here and I'm talking to you guys. But I also like being alone. So I get it.
I've already made videos on my channel about relationships and the stages of dating here in Sweden, but it's definitely different culturally from where I'm from in the US. Now, because I've lived in Sweden for almost 4 years, I think that being here has had a huge impact on me culturally. I think about a lot of my friends back home in the US are getting married, settling down at earlier ages. The average age for getting married here in Sweden is much, much later. And I've spent the majority now of my adult life in Sweden because I moved to Sweden when I was 22. I'm 26 now, so almost being here for 4 years. And I think that has had an impact on me because I think about my view on relationships. I'm not really quick to jump into things now. I'm very valuing my independence. I know I want to continue to travel and do new and inspiring things in the future. And I just don't want to necessarily get tied down. I love being independent. I have my own place. I can go and do what I want, where I want, all these types of things. And I wonder if being in this culture, being in this environment, surrounded by all of these super independent Swedes has actually had an impact on me.
It probably has. It probably has had a massive impact on him actually being there. I'm very jealous of him because he lives in Sweden and I'm like, I wish I was living in Sweden. But anyways, I think that it's probably changed him completely. And another thing, in Sweden, that's probably why you have so many incredibly successful businesses, like big organizations like Spotify and like, what else have you got? You've got I don't know, there's a lot, I can't think off the top of my head, but you've got a lot of industries, right? Big industries, and they probably require individuals who are very hyper focused on the specific business that they're doing. And if there isn't any pressure in your culture to settle down, have kids, have a family, slow down, that type of thing, then it allows for entrepreneurial kind of aspects of life. Do you know what I mean? Like, I can imagine that it lends itself really well to people who are quite career driven rather than people that are like, I want to slow down, have a family, da-da-da-da. So Sweden's probably a really good place if you're quite a driven person, right? I don't know. It's just maybe. I don't know. I've never been, but in my head, I feel like it is.
That's where it's interesting how the society impacts the individual. If you found this video interesting, hit the like button. That will help recommend it out to a wider audience. And if you
I love this video, and I'll tell you why. Because it explains how Swedes are very individualistic, very probably career driven. Let me know in the comment section if that's true. But also, you're not afraid of being alone. You're not afraid of doing things on your own. You're not afraid of leaving the home at a younger age. And you don't, I feel like there's no peer pressure to get into relationships and get into long-term situations when you're not ready to do so. And I think that's incredible. And I love that aspect of Sweden. I think it's very forward thinking, and I think more countries should be like that. Guys, make sure you subscribe, make sure you like and comment. Let me know if this is true about Sweden. I really would like to know. Until the next one, I'll see you very soon.